Years ago, the starting point to go to Machu Picchu used to be right here at the San Pedro train station, located right in front of the San Pedro market in downtown Cuzco, Peru. Such wonderful and magical city, former capital of the Inca Empire. In recent years, most tourists board a train to Machu Picchu at the Ollantaytambo station, located at about 60 kilometers away from Cusco, or at the Poroy station, which is just a 30-minute ride from Cusco. However, it is still possible to take the train to Machu Picchu right here at this old station. Check the Peru Rail webpage to book tickets. When the construction of the Cusco-Santa Ana Railway began in 1914, they included switchbacks in the railway design so that the train could climb the mountain when leaving the city, almost 200 meters up. In November 2023, I decided to chase the train and see its journey through these switchbacks. To do this, I went up the stairs of these narrow and steep streets and passages. First, I could only see a locomotive. Soon, I was able to see a passenger train. I had been walking for a little while when I realized that I was in enemy territory. Hostile glances and lots of barking told me that I was not welcomed in this neighborhood. I walked into the lion's den, or rather into the dog's den. Dozens of dogs patrolled these streets and alleys. For a moment I thought about going back and giving up, but I just gritted my teeth and kept on going. This way I had to go up and walking as slowly as I could because there are, as you can see, about 10 dogs over there. They didn't move. I just passed by and they didn't move. They just gave me the look, but they didn't move, they didn't bark. But yeah, I was scared as hell, because if one of them started barking, the rest of them were going to follow. That was the San Pedro station where the train was just leaving. In order to get here where I am right now, to gain altitude, the train has to go through a lot of switchbacks, I think 4 of them. So it goes all the way over there and then switches and then goes back that way and then returns again until it reaches this point where I am right now. As you can see, it's above the city of Cusco. I decided to walk briskly to get to the very point where the train makes one of the switchbacks. So I went on my way walking on the tracks of this railway, which by the way is narrow gauge, just a bit under 1 meter width, while the railway tracks that we see on the rest of the Southern Railroad in Peru are of standard gauge. As I was walking, I realized that most of these dogs were not that mean, at least in the morning, because they were kind enough to let me pass through their territory. I suppose that it is at night when strangers are simply not allowed on any of these streets. Construction for the Cusco-Santa Ana Railway took a long time, perhaps because of the bureaucratic procedures, lack of budget, or the complicated and rough work terrain. On December 10, 1907, President José Pardo y Barrera decreed the construction of this railway. Construction work began in 1914, 7 years later. By 1920, 46 kilometers of railway had been built, reaching the town of Huarocondo. In 1923, the railroad extended to Pachar, and in 1929, the railway reached Machu Picchu town or Aguascalientes.
25 years after they started work. After 71 years, in 1978, the railroad finally reached Quillabamba, being the only means of transportation for people and cargo for many years. Unfortunately, in 1998, a powerful landslide wiped out part of the railway track and cut off communication with Quillabamba. The National Railway Company decided to remove the tracks instead of repairing them. Currently, the railway only reaches the hydroelectric station, located a few kilometers beyond Machupicchu, Pueblo. As I was walking, I started to remember the first trip to Machu Picchu we made with my family back in 2000. I remember we took a bus to Huizquichaca, a small town near Cuzco. There we waited for the local train, which was a rusty old train. As soon as the train stopped, we all ran to the cars and got on as soon as we could. I saw some people breaking the windows and doors to get in. Some others got into the cars through the windows. It was just a mess, crazy stuff. Inside a crowded car, we had to make the 4-hour trip standing up in the corridor. Yep, no seats were available. At last, we arrived at the Puente Ruinas station, from where we went up walking to Machu Picchu. After visiting the site, we walked down back to Aguascalientes, where we waited for a train that would take us back to Cusco. It was delayed for many hours, and when it finally arrived at around 8 p.m., it was just as chaotic as in the morning. The crowded train finally left, and I had to travel standing up again for the whole 4-hour trip. As the hours passed by, I simply could no longer keep on my feet anymore. I was just done. I felt that I would fall or faint at any moment. That said that we were almost there, that we were already in Cusco going down through the Switchbacks towards the city. We arrived at the San Pedro station at 1 a.m. and spent the night in a cheap hotel right in front of the station. 23 years later, I still remember that crazy first trip to Machu Picchu with a smile and full of gratitude.
Okay, those are the switch I was telling you about. The train goes all the way until it reaches that dead end, and then it throws the switch and returns and goes through this track, and it gains altitude, as you can see. Okay, they are just throwing the switch, and then the train is going that way, gaining more altitude. noisy. The railroad was built in the 20th century, 19 something, and on this side you can see the original Inca road or Camino Inca, which was built by the Incas in I don't know, in 16th or 15th century, but this is the original road that the Incas built, this one, to get to Cuzco.
A regular tourist may not come around here to walk these streets. They are just not touristy, and they may not be that safe unless you ride a train and get to see them from the windows. Despite the dogs and everything, it is an interesting area of this ancient city, especially for those of us who like trains. It is probably cheaper to go to Llantaytambo and take the train from there, but if you are into trains, you could consider leaving Cusco from the old San Pedro station and experience firsthand how these heavy vehicles climb almost 200 meters when leaving the city. Eventually, the train arrives and passes through the Arch of Tica Tica, a historical place where three important periods of history of this magical city meet.